Trillions of dollars are being poured into AI chips, models, and gigantic data centers. And every few months, some new model arrives promising either superior reasoning or improved coding. But if AI actually is getting smarter and more capable, then why are so many complaining about AI getting worse? Users are reporting weirder mistakes, answers becoming more cautious, subscriptions getting confusing, and limits that are more restrictive with less predictable tools. So what the hell is going on here? Well, in this video, we'll explain how AI can keep getting smarter while the experience surrounding it gets noticeably worse, and why the technology we're all becoming increasingly dependent upon is becoming less and less ours. My name is Lewis, and you're watching The Coin Bureau. To understand why AI feels different today, we need to go back to the beginning. Not the beginning of time, just when ChatGPT first made a public appearance. It was free, it was also surprisingly powerful, and it was presented as an experimental preview, indicating that it had much more potential. The aim at that point was only to get public feedback on this novel experience. The priority didn't seem to be squeezing out dollars from users at that point. But it was still a typical marketing trap. Lo and behold, the paid subscriptions finally arrived, and the offer remained remarkably simple. $20 bought faster responses, priority access, and a front row seat to the latest technology. And that generous opening worked. People began using AI to write emails, summarize documents, study, brainstorm, analyze data, and produce code. And this goes on and on. What started as an entertaining chatbot gradually became part of how millions of people completed ordinary work. Predictably, once a tool saves you time, you start building routines around it. Templates are created, teams are trained, and entire workflows start to revolve around it. Removing it then becomes much harder than canceling some streaming service, for instance. But providing advanced AI to hundreds of millions of users also requires vast amounts of chips, electricity, and data center capacity. Eventually, the companies funding that bill need a little bit more than just enthusiastic users. They need subscriptions, enterprise contracts, basically enough revenue to justify this infrastructure spending on an extraordinary scale. And so, the honeymoon phase began ending. The original challenge was making AI useful enough that people would adopt it. The new challenge was working out how much those increasingly dependent users and businesses can be persuaded to pay. This is the familiar life cycle of any good digital platform. Provide a solution, subsidize convenience, establish the habit, and then monetize the dependency. The technology that first asked, "How can I help?" is therefore facing a different question from its owners. How much will people tolerate? And as we'll see next, companies do not always need to raise the price to change the deal. Sometimes they could change the product itself. Now, imagine opening the same app, entering the same prompt, and receiving a completely different result. Like maybe the wording is weaker, the code breaks, or the model suddenly ignores an instruction that it followed perfectly yesterday. You changed nothing, but something is up with the intelligence behind that screen. This is one of the strangest things about modern AI products. Traditional software normally changes when you install an update, and the changes are often quite predictable. But with cloud-based AI, however, the interface can remain identical, while the underlying model, not so much. Here is what's going on. Sometimes the previous model is simply retired and replaced. Even when the new version performs better overall, that does not guarantee that it will be better with your particular scope of work. An upgrade for the average user can still be a downgrade for you, and it makes this game very tricky. It's a little like opening your drawer and finding things somehow keep getting rearranged every single day. It almost looks the same, but something always feels different. Automatic routing makes this even less transparent. Instead of choosing one fixed model, users may allow the platform to decide how much reasoning a request deserves. That can make AI cheaper and faster, but it also means two similar prompts may not receive the same underlying treatment. For casual questions, that inconsistency may be harmless, but for a business relying on repeatable summaries, standardized reports, or code production, this unpredictability can cost a lot. Every silent change can force teams to do a whole exercise again. That's just an unwanted headache, right? Well, the problem then is not merely frequently changing models. The actual problem here is having little to no control over when things change, what replaced them, or whether the old behavior can even be restored. You may subscribe to the same product, yet wake up to a different employee every single day. Good luck getting to know a new person every morning. And that's why knowing how to use AI properly and keeping up with these changes is becoming so important. And by the way, we've made that easy for you. All you have to do is subscribe to the AI Bureau. That's where we bring you practical insights on AI, important updates, and clear explanations without all the hype and noise. So if that sounds good to you, then subscribe to the AI Bureau so that you don't miss our next video. Now, let's examine one of the most contentious issues when it comes to AI. Paying for AI no longer guarantees simple or predictable access. Those straightforward monthly subscriptions are turning into a maze of plans, model allowances, premium tools, credits, and separate usage rules. Wish we could ask AI which AI suits you best for this month, to be honest. Take ChatGPT for instance. A paid subscriber may receive more access than a free user, but that access is not always unlimited. Hit the relevant cap, and the service may temporarily switch you to a smaller model until the allowance resets. Claude uses a different vocabulary here, but the basic experience is again similar. Users can face limits across both shorter sessions and entire weeks. A burst of heavy work today could affect how much access remains several days later. Google adds another variation with Gemini. Subscription tiers offer different multiples of standard usage. So, instead of asking whether an AI tool is included, users increasingly have to ask how much access that they actually receive, to which model, for how long, and under what conditions. This makes comparisons very difficult. One company measures prompts, another tracks tokens, while another applies rolling windows or task-specific quotas. On top of that, even the limits themselves may change. And the more capable AI becomes, the more expensive some tasks can be. Long reasoning, coding agents, and large files consume far more computing power than a quick question, creating this pressure to charge users according to how heavily they use the system. The result is a strange reversal. Users may now spend more while feeling less certain about what they actually purchased. Instead of using AI freely, they ration prompts, postpone some demanding tasks, and still worry that the best model might vanish exactly when they need it. So, with these modern subscriptions also comes a free side of anxiety. Then, there's the increasingly strange personality of AI itself. Many chatbots have become more agreeable. They're more cautious and far more eager to reassure you, even when what you actually need is an honest challenge. This is known as sycophancy, your very own yes man. In April of 2025, OpenAI reversed an update after GPT-4o began validating doubts and encouraging impulsive ideas. It was telling users what they appeared to want to hear. A narcissist's dream come true. The assistant had become too good at being supportive and worse at being truthful. It may sound harmless when the model praises your business plan or calls every question excellent, but an assistant that instinctively agrees can promote bad assumptions. Flattering poor work or making reckless ideas feel sensible can be straight up dangerous. At the opposite extreme is over-refusal. Safety training is supposed to stop models from helping with genuinely dangerous requests. Yet, research has found that the same systems can reject perfectly innocent prompts simply because they contain words or scenarios that resemble something harmful. And even when the AI does answer, the useful part may arrive wrapped in several layers of conversational bubble wrap. A straightforward explanation becomes a warning, followed by a disclaimer, followed by a reminder to consult an expert, and so on and so forth. And somewhere near the bottom of this pile lies the actual answer. I'm not trying to say that alignment isn't essential. Nobody wants an AI to enthusiastically assist with the dangerous requests, right? But the problem is that safety with AI is not a simple switch. It is not a black and white concept. Finding a balance between preventing harm and remaining useful is a huge variable to control. And when that balance goes wrong, you get alignment sludge. Flattery, evasiveness, canned sympathy, and corporate-sounding caveats that clog up simple conversations. Imagine your employee telling you that he needs to check with the legal department before he could tell you where the stapler is. Irony is, you can't even fire the guy. Now, on paper, AI progress always looks extraordinary. Models are scoring higher on tests, covering mathematics, science, coding, and visual reasoning. Each new release arrives alongside charts that appear to prove it has surpassed everything before it. But let's not forget, a benchmark is still a controlled exam. Once leading models begin approaching the ceiling, small differences can look more meaningful than they really are. The industry then needs harder tests, because yesterday's stats can no longer measure tomorrow's progress. There's also the risk of contamination. If benchmark questions, solutions, or close variations enter the training data, a model may look as though it has learned to reason when it has partly just learned the exam. There's a difference between memorizing past papers and actually mastering the subject. Meanwhile, ordinary users still encounter hallucinated facts, even invented sources in some instances. And these answers are delivered with complete confidence, with a trust me bro vibe. And to top it all, the model may ace an advanced reasoning test, then confidently provide the wrong date, forget a clear instruction, or contradict something it said 3 messages earlier. Now, this does not mean that benchmark gains are fake, not at all. They reveal improvements in specific capabilities. The actual problem is that intelligence is only one ingredient in a useful product. So, inconsistency, following instructions, and knowing when to admit uncertainty have far-reaching impacts. For example, coding agents demonstrate this issue particularly well. A system may produce code that technically passes an automated test. At the same time, it may still leave behind poor documentation, weak test coverage, or changes that cannot safely be merged into a real project. In fact, impressive capabilities do not automatically translate into greater productivity. According to a Meter study, experienced developers using AI took 19% longer to complete their tasks, partly because checking and correcting generated work introduced costs that the initial output had concealed. And then comes that reliability figure. An agent that completes a complicated task half the time may look astonishing in a demo, but in a workplace, the other half can mean broken code or deleted work. Then, several hours get spent discovering where it all went wrong. So, better scores don't necessarily produce a better experience. Benchmarks ask whether an AI can succeed under defined conditions. Users need to know whether it will succeed reliably inside messy tasks, where one confident mistake can ruin everything. On that note, simplicity was a key value of these AI models in the early days. AI chatbots were originally appealing because they were simple. You opened a blank conversation, typed a question, and received an answer. But just like most other tech, that clean little chat box is rapidly becoming transformed into something else entirely. Chatbots are now becoming search engines, research assistants, coding platforms, image generators, and digital agents capable of completing tasks. You name it, they can connect to files, browse websites, analyze data, and potentially act across the services people already use. Each figure sounds useful by itself. Together, however, they introduce more models, connectors, permissions, and decisions. Users must increasingly understand not only what to ask, but which tools should answer, what information it could access, and what actions it may perform. And the same race is happening across the industry. Gemini can help users research, write code, and create interactive applications, while Microsoft is embedding Copilot and specialized agents throughout its workplace software. The business incentive is that the more tasks an AI platform can manage, the less reason users have to abandon it. A chatbot that once only answered questions can become the doorway to your documents, calendar, shopping, coding, and eventually much of your everyday life. But there is a trade-off. When one prompt can trigger search, code execution, external apps, or an autonomous agent, the same request may behave differently depending on what the system decides to activate. That's a few tablespoons of unpredictability right there. More integrations also mean more data access and more opportunities for something to go wrong. Convenience increasingly depends on granting an AI permission to inspect personal files, connect accounts, and take actions outside the conversation itself. So, the original chatbot is becoming a whole operating system with a conversation box. More features may make it more powerful, but they can also make the core experience cluttered, unpredictable, and harder to trust. So, this race to make AI capable of everything may actually be weakening the quality that attracted users to it in the first place. The sense that you could simply ask a question and have a fair idea of what would happen next. But there's one thing everyone is sure of when it comes to AI. The same technology making AI cheaper and faster is also making content super easy to produce. Articles, images, reviews, product listings, and videos can now be generated by the thousands, whether or not anyone has anything useful to say. That content has already taken over most of the internet. Now, this predicament also creates a powerful incentive to replace quality with volume. Instead of researching one helpful article, a publisher can produce hundreds of shallow pages targeting every possible search term and hope that a few attract some clicks. The result is what many people now call AI slop. Material that looks convincing for a few seconds, but offers little substance. It repeats obvious points and even invents details. So, it is basically imitating expertise without actually having the proper expertise. And as more of this material enters search results, social feeds, and online marketplaces, finding reliable human work is becoming harder and harder. Unfortunately, the internet is becoming crowded with content that takes longer to verify than it took to create. But that's not all. There's an even more unsettling possibility. Future AI models may be trained on an internet increasingly filled with the outputs of earlier models. A peer-reviewed Nature study found that repeatedly learning from synthetic material can gradually distort what a model understands about the original data. Think of it like making a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. A bit like being in a dream within a dream within a dream, like the movie Inception. The first version may look acceptable, but with every repetition, fine details start to disappear, and the final image drifts further away from the original. This is not to say synthetic data is always harmful. Responsibly generated and verified material can improve training where authentic examples are scarce. The danger actually stems from unfiltered slop being mistaken for reliable knowledge simply because there is so much of it. So, AI is changing the internet, which it will later consume again. A snake eating itself up. That may sound a bit dramatic, but unless quality keeps pace with quantity, today's cheap content could seriously impact what people call intelligence in the future. But let's bring it back to the user. Where does all of this leave us? AI may be growing more capable, but users are losing control over which model they use, how it behaves, what it costs, and how long it even remains available. Users are increasingly renting access to intelligence chosen and configured by someone else. The provider can adjust its personality, route your prompt differently, impose new limits, or even replace the model while leaving the familiar chat box almost unchanged. Traditional software could often be installed and preserved, even if the developer released an unpopular update. You might continue using the old version. Cloud AI is different though. The product lives on someone else's servers, so yesterday's assistants can simply disappear. Poof, it's gone. And this helps explain growing interest in open-weight and locally operated models. They may not always match the strongest commercial systems, but they can offer greater control. Then control over privacy, customization, updates, and whether a working model remains available. So, we're not saying that AI progress is imaginary. Models really are improving, yes. The problem is that capability and usability are seeing some friction. The machine becomes smarter while the average person using it receives less certainty. Trillions may create more powerful AI, but power alone does not create a better product. AI may improve dramatically, but the experience of depending on it could become noticeably worse unless you really know what you're doing. But what do you think? Is AI genuinely getting worse, or are companies simply giving users less control over technology that continues to improve? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you want to make sure that you're getting the absolute most out of AI as the tech develops, then make sure to check out our videos over on the AI Bureau, like this one on how to make sure AI makes you smarter, not dumber. As always, thank you for watching. This is Lewis, signing off.